I cannot believe more people are not talking about this book. It is so, so good. Hello my loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten and we are doing my July wrap up. I keep wanting to say June. I can't believe we're already at the start of August. That's just crazy. Anyway, I have a little stack here, nowhere near as big as last month, but that's absolutely fine and kind of expected. It ended up having a couple of chunky books, so that definitely led to me not reading as many this month. But anyway, let's stop the excess ramble and just get straight to the books that I read. I actually kind of organised this. I'm quite impressed with myself. So starting off with all of the Greek mythology retellings, we have this tiny little one by Madeline Miller, which is Galatia. Again, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce this properly, and as I said during my weekly vlog, you did tell me how to, but I just... Anyway, this one I liked, but I stand by what I said in my weekly vlog, which is that this would have been fantastic as part of a short story collection if we had different mythology retelling authors get together and create a short story collection, and this was Madeline Miller's input. Fantastic. On its own, I do think it was a bit of a rip-off. I would love to see other authors get together, have this one put inside it, even Madeline Miller do a new one, and just have that enjoyment in there. I think it would be so, so good. As it stands, this one is a little one that is all about a mythology that was in Ovid's Metamorphoses, about this architect that creates this beautiful marble statue who begs the gods to bring it to life, and it comes to life, and it's Madeline Miller's take on that. And I did like it. I thought it was really, really good. But yeah, as I said, this would have been so much better as part of a short story collection. The other mythology read I read this month is Cassandra by Krista Wolf. This is translated from German and it is fantastic. I really, really enjoyed this look at Cassandra, who is Paris's sister, someone that was gifted with prophecy but then cursed by Apollo so that nobody would believe her, and this is her at the end of her life. She's just about to die and she's thinking about her life. It is written as stream of consciousness. It has no chapters, no paragraph breaks. It is just one endless thought of hers, and as a result it curves its own path following different thoughts as we normally do, and I really, really liked it. It's definitely one that I know you can go back to and find things that you missed the first time round on reading this, and it is just fantastic. Also depicting what happens with Helen of Joy in a completely different way, something that I haven't read before, and just the way it explores the Battle of Troy, because obviously Cassandra wasn't a major part of the Battle of Troy, but she was there to feel its effects and to see its effects. And yeah, I think it was really, really well done, really just beautifully written, and yeah, fantastic. If you haven't read this one but you are interested in Trojan War retellings, please do give this one a try. It's only 200 pages, but it stays with you and it's so beautiful, and it does take a little bit to get used to the writing because of that stream of consciousness effect, but it's worth it. I really, really recommend it. And then the last Greek myth retelling I read is this massive chunker, and again about the Trojan War. This time we are following Helen, because I read Helen of Joy by Margaret George, and I did like this. I liked seeing Helen's perspective. I've read a lot of mythology retellings around the Trojan War, but this is the first one that I found that actually follows Helen, and I liked that. I found it really interesting to see her growing up from a young child to her death and seeing everything that happens in between, what happens with her and Paris, and just this author's take on it I found so intriguing. And of course, because we're following Helen, we have lots of crossovers with different stories as well. So you have Clytemnestra, Helen's sister, and everything that happens with Agamemnon, the House of Atreus family curse. You also have different gods and goddesses mentioned, and just different mythology woven throughout, and obviously Cassandra's mentioned, and it was just fantastic to see all these different mythologies coming together in this one story. It is huge, but I really did enjoy it. It is beautifully written and it's really easy to follow, especially when I compare it to something like Cassandra that required a bit more concentration on my part. This was very easy to follow in contrast. So yeah, I do think if you're interested in Greek mythology, if you're interested in Trojan War retellings, this is another good one, and it really does explore the concept of time as well in war and how different things can impact the perception of it, as well as what happens with women in war, and just, yeah, great. I loved it. I really enjoyed this book, so yeah, very happy. So I had quite a nice Greek mythology retelling month with those 3 books, and I love it. It's definitely fast becoming my favourite is to read about mythology retellings, specifically Greek at the moment, but once I've scratched that itch, I definitely want to explore different mythology retellings from different cultures. But yeah, loving that. And then we move on to a couple of classics. So we have Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Valley of Fear, and this is the last novel that he wrote, and I read this book last in a series order that I found on Google. Wrong order, completely wrong. His short story collections follow on better, and the last short story collection, The Return of Sherlock Holmes, wraps up much better, and I could really see that this wasn't in the correct order. Overall, I still enjoyed it, and because it was the novel, it's split into 2 parts. So you have part 1 where you have Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson solving this mystery and everything that goes along with that, and then part 2, which is where it's from almost like the villain side, seeing what happened, why it all happened, and just that explanation, which I think you only really get in the novels. In the short stories, you just get the first part, which is them solving that mystery, and I liked this one. You have the start of like Dr. Moriarty being mentioned and the little breadcrumbs that go throughout that, which I really liked. But yeah, definitely do not read this last, and maybe if there's enough interest I will create my own reading order for the Sherlock Holmes books, but we'll see, because that's going to take a bit of time for me to actually think about it properly on where I would place this one. And then the other classic book I read for the month is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen, and this was the last book of hers that I had to read, and I've now read all of them, so a Jane Austen ranking will be coming soon, probably next month, because August is pretty booked out. I did enjoy this one. It's completely different to all her other works, like completely different, and I liked that. I liked the exploration that we took into Gothic literature and how it kind of was almost like a comedic take on having this main character, Catherine, who is so over-imaginative, and the way her imagination takes her to different things and creates situations that to her are so believable, and because you're following her, it's kind of semi-believable as a reader, but it's just immensely funny. And Catherine herself is this very naive young woman who believes the best in everybody. As a result, she finds that her best friend really isn't that nice by the end of it, and you do see her character growth, which I really liked in this. It was just fun, and I also loved the times where Jane Austen was calling out about the fact that back then writers were often discredited for writing novels like this, saying how, you know, they weren't good, that they were just for people who had nothing better to do with their time, that they should be reading informative stuff, and Jane Austen's like, well, you're reading it and enjoying it, so no. And I liked that, and it was just kind of like an ode to literature and reading and just enjoying it. So yeah, I enjoyed this. Very fun, very different, although the ending was a bit rushed. It was predictable, but yeah, I think I would have preferred it if it would just slow down just a wee bit. And the historical fiction for the month is The Mad Woman's Ball by Victoria Mars, and this is amazing. So it's translated from French, and wow, is it good. So it's based in 1885 in an actual asylum that was around then, and we also have actual doctors that worked there being mentioned throughout this, and you have different perspectives from different women that all end up linking to this asylum in some way. And it's literally just a call out on how asylums were used back then for men to put women that just didn't conform with their wishes, didn't fit into these nice little neat boxes that they wanted them to fit into, and put them in these asylums as a result. Now, it does also highlight that some women were in there because they've had terrible pasts, some women were in there because they actually needed this help, but the fact that the help that they were getting wasn't really help, it was more just scientific experiments that they were able to use on these women because they were put there because society didn't know what to do with them, and that led them to be able to do these experiments which really weren't that humane. And you do see different sides of that story. You see the sides of some people believing in it and thinking that it really is helping these women, others that are terrified of this asylum and knows what it means to be put there. And then you have others who have become institutionalised and love the asylum because they're so scared of being out in the outside world and being with men and just the difficulties that they have to deal with because they are women. And it's just fantastic. It's such a small book and it packs so much into it. I highly recommend, but please do look up the trigger warnings. But it's fantastic. I cannot believe more people are not talking about this book. It is so good, and it's based on real historical events, and it just highlights and juxtaposes what it's like in our society today and how women can still be treated this way, not to these extremes, but still have that image of not conforming to society's wishes and how it can cause such trouble for things. Like, it's good. It's really good. And then we have my reread, and this is why I got a bit behind this month. No, not necessarily true. I did actually finish this in a few days, but this is my reread, A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J Maas. This is the 4th book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, and my favourite out of that series, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a massive fan of the first 3 books at all, to be honest, but this one I really love. We're following Nesta, who is Feyre's sister, which the first 3 books follow her, and then this is Nesta's own book, and I like the exploration into this, into PTSD, into friendships, into the struggle to try and get over and deal with what's happened to her, and just, yeah, I loved it. It was raw, it was emotional, and I am a Sarah J Maas fan. I can't help it. I love her books. I grew up with them. They are just those nostalgia feels for me and will always be at the top for me. So yeah, I know some people don't like this one, but I loved it. I really enjoyed it, and I'm so glad that I reread it. This was the first time reading it in the paperback. I had read it a couple times in the hardback already. But yeah, I love this one, and this is probably, if I was going to have a standalone book, this is probably one of my favourites that she's written. But the series, that would be Throne of Glass. That's still my favourite, and that is just because I grew up with that one. I was buying them as they were being printed, so that's always nostalgia feels. But I do think this is my absolute favourite book of hers that she's written, and I know Nesta's not everyone's favourite character. She is quite unlikable at times, but I don't know, I really like her. I really like the journey that she goes on and the friendships that she creates and stuff. Yeah, really like this one. Then we get into the final section, and that is manga. So I read 3 manga this month, one being Black Torch Volume 1, and this was just fun. It's about ninjas and demons and a demon cat that somehow gets linked up with this person who can communicate with animals, and it's just fun. I do think I'm interested in continuing on with this one. I think it's going to be just a fun, light-hearted time, nothing too much, nothing too gruesome, and it's just, yeah, entertaining and funny. Yeah, I liked that one, quite pleased, because I literally did pick it up just because of the cat on the cover, so pleased that it actually worked out into something that I enjoy. Ninjas and demons, who would have thought, but it works. And then the last 2 is volume 5 and 6 of Tokyo Ghoul. So volume 5 was in my June TBR, but I never got around to it, so I brought it over into July, and then volume 6 was on this month's TBR. I finished both of these. I enjoyed both of them. I mentioned literally in last week's vlog, manga to me is almost like watching a TV series. It's so easy for me just to switch off to and just follow along to different episodes, each volume being a different episode, and it works so well, especially because it is all artwork with just speech bubbles and stuff. It really does feel like a TV series to me, so this is something that I like picking up when I just want to switch off and relax, and these and Black Torch fulfilled that itch completely, and I do think that's what I'm going to be using manga going forward, because I don't watch TV, I don't watch episodes or films or anything like that, so having these and that kind of fulfills that for me works out really well, especially when I just can't focus too much on an actual like novel. To have these to break it up works so well. And this one, I haven't spoken too much about what it actually is, but we are based in Tokyo, where we have ghouls, and they are basically like zombies. They have to eat human flesh to survive, but they do look like humans and do pass off as humans. Our main character gets tangled up with 1 foot in the ghoul world, 1 foot in the human world, and he sees it from both sides and kind of believes that there is a way for them to coexist peacefully if only the two sides would stop fighting each other. So it's a very interesting series. I do enjoy it, and I like how our main character is so good while being caught up in this really dark world. There we have it. Those are all the books that I read this month. I think overall I really enjoyed it. We had no DNFs for a change. Oh, technically, sort of actually. We have Water in the Soul by Courtney Pepperell, and this is a poetry collection, and I only got 32 pages into it. But this isn't a DNF in the sense that I'm never going to pick this up. This is one I'm just going to pick up every so often when I feel like reading it. So technically not a DNF, but also not one that I can talk too much about because I only read 32 pages, but it is just poems about finding yourself, accepting yourself, and going on this journey to grow and look after yourself, basically. So quite a sweet one. But yeah, so overall no proper hard DNFs where I don't enjoy it. All of these books are ones that I have enjoyed. I really had quite a good reading month, even though it was a lot slower than previous months. I liked it. It was really, really good. So do let me know what was your favourite book of July. If you've read any of these, again, let me know. But I think that's it for this month. So thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, then let's put something to do with Greek mythology. So I think there's like that column pillar emoji. I don't know. Have fun with that one. Just go for it. And yeah, I think we're going to leave it at that. So, as I was saying, thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed it, don't forget to give it that thumbs up, subscribe, comment to let me know that you're here. Social media links will be linked below, and I will of course catch you in the next one.